answer the question, how? That is what Kenyans will be looking for. How? We must have a thread of accountability running through whatever issues that we are talking about. We must have integration of the various sectors that come up. So, although we have pointed out that we have about 4 agenda items, which they have talked about, they are all intertwined. The economic issue, the governance issue, the transformational issues, the issues around the environment and climate change that is taking place in the country, in the globe, these are all intertwined. So I want us to debunk this notion that it is about economic models. We have been killing page after page in our media, several hours on our TV screens and so forth, because we are beginning to argue about models and models and models, making it look like it is a simple academic exercise. The challenges facing Kenya is not about models. Let us diagnose what is there. If we have a diagnosed health as an issue or some challenges in health, let us be surgical, find out what those are, and then think through the process of getting out of those challenges properly. If we are talking about debt, and as an example, I kept on talking about debt much earlier, to the extent that people maybe started saying, is this Mr. Debt? Whenever I appeared. It looked as if it was just a simplistic thing. But now we acknowledge it is, because 70% of the revenue collected is going to pay debt. 70% of what KRA collects is going to pay debt. So what is left for development? Now, if 70% is going to debt, then slowly we enter into a debt trap, because the 30% that we have cannot meet our other needs, meet our other expenditures, pay salaries, and so forth. So again, you go out to seek more debt. Now, public debt will then translate into excessive household debt. Because there is household debt. How does household debt grow? Household debt will grow because you are being taxed more by the government of the day to settle external debt. So ile pesa mfukoni, which you're supposed to have, is diminishing. And your household debt is growing. Your poverty levels are growing. So these are the issues that we need to arrest. And we can only arrest them from a holistic approach. We must rationalize public expenditure. We can't do everything at the same time, at a go. We will have to make very tough decisions going forward. Some austerity measures will have to come into place. These are the issues that must come out. And I have been propagating the issue of the economy. And when I pushed it, the truth of the matter is that the competitors in the field have all jumped onto it. Sometimes it's important, if people don't give you the credit, sometimes you must blow your own trumpet, because nobody will blow it for you. Because the reality of the matter here is that we started talking about economic issues earlier than any of the political competitors today. Now, when we say uchumi bora, Pesa mfukoni. Now somebody comes up with a hashtag and says, uchumi mashinani. When you talk of something else, you can see an element of plagiarism beginning to play into this discussion. So let us be very careful. Let us not dwell on what are perceived as economic models. Let us create stability. Let us get people to vote wisely. And then let the institutions that are supposed to function appropriately. I am sitting here with several members of parliament. We want to tackle corruption as a nation. But if you allocate to the Auditor General 3 billion shillings, you then allocate to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption 3 billion shillings. You allocate to the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution 3 billion shillings. You allocate to the Asset Recovery and Money Laundering entities 1 billion shillings. You then allocate 18 billion shillings to the judiciary. You then allocate about 6 billion to DCI. And then you allocate 47 billion to Parliament. Then you tell them, let us fight corruption. How is the Auditor General going to provide timely and accurate reports, not only of the national government, but for the 47 counties that we have? And over and above that, the parastatals. So, what am I saying here? Can we rationalize our expenditure programs, our resource allocation arrangements as a nation? That does not require a model. That requires us being practical and putting resources where we shall have the appropriate return, either in the delivery of justice or the provision of service, or provide better facilities in one way or the other. We must ask ourselves, COVID or no COVID, why have we lost 2 million subscribers or contributors to NHIF in the last 1 year? Why is it a situation where the person who's contributing to NHIF can no longer afford to pay what he or she was supposed to pay so that she can get medical attention? These are the questions we should be asking ourselves as a nation. That is what I'm appealing to you as Kenyans, that let us focus. Let us break away from this personality-based politics. I remind people of two great politicians in this country. One was Dr. Zachary Onyonka, may his soul rest in peace. And another was a Nairobi politician, a friend of mine called David Mwenje. Very interesting. When you go to the Hansard in Parliament, you will see what Zachary Onyonka would talk about in terms of what we ought to do as a nation to revamp our economy, to create jobs. When you went to the Hansard, very huge contributions. When it came to him being covered by members of the Fourth Estate who are here, he would barely get a paragraph. Then David Mwenje, who would come in and enter with a tiff with the speaker, would get the headline, But what Zakaria Onyonka had said vanishes. So I'm bringing this together so that at the end of the day, I want to appeal to a very important player in directing the economic recovery and revival of this nation to put their best foot forward, and that is the fourth estate, the media. I want you to put your best foot forward in getting the right discourse in this country so that we can make informed decisions, so that we can vote right. Let us get things right. Ask us the how question. How do I intend to finance these programs? Is it realistic? Do you want to increase the tax burden on Mama Mboga? Do you want to increase the tax burden on the small businessman? What is making people angry? Globally, sharing of a container. Is it the less than, they call it LSM, I think there's some importers here, where our people in Gikomba would be able to share a container in terms of what they bring. Just repeat that? CBM. Now, why would you then create a policy that denies that small person the opportunity to pool together? Kenya had a very strong cooperative movement. What is the cooperative movement all about? It's all about pooling together. So you make business difficult for them. Now, do you expect them to want to vote for you? These are some of the fundamentals that I say we don't require models. We require dialogue, listening to the people who are doing business, talking to them, understanding their challenges, and finding collective solutions. This is the message that we need to drive home. I was in Treasury for some time. I know a government desires to look for quick collection of revenue, and the target is usually where it pinches most. Energy sector, petroleum products. That is where we go for maybe 50% or even 70% of your costs, energy costs, and nothing but taxes. How are you going to become competitive? If you have big manufacturers here, when you profile the cost of a unit of a kilowatt hour of electricity, it's very expensive in Kenya. Why? How are we going to compete? All the power purchase agreements that the Kenya Power entered into that have made power costly, I'm happy at least there's a review going through it. But these are issues that we can correct by making sure that we open renegotiation in some of those areas. Until you make the cost of power affordable, you are going to render all our manufacturers uncompetitive. About 40% of production costs in manufacturing is the cost of energy. We have to address these things. This is not about models. This is about being realistic, practical, diagnose, and find solutions. So we are offering you, as ANC, a team, a desire, a conviction that we will be ready to dialogue with Kenyans, all sectors, small or big, farmer or non-farmer, pastoralist or non-pastoralist, male and female, young and old, so that we can find appropriate solutions and we can put enough resources in all our areas that require attention: education, the health sector, the manufacturing. We must leverage on technology. The digital space is becoming big, very big, maybe close to, in a very short while, it will be hitting the 5 trillion